At its core, the phenomenon of attraction emerges from complex psychological mechanisms that transcend simplistic notions of pursuit or avoidance. This intricate dynamic operates through what researchers term relational gravity frameworks, sophisticated systems where individuals unconsciously evaluate potential connections based on a combination of evolutionary triggers, social conditioning, and personal psychological needs. The fundamental drivers of this attraction behavior stem from deeply ingrained evolutionary psychology principles combined with modern social dynamics, creating what experts describe as attraction activation networks in human cognition. Modern psychological research has identified several universal principles governing initial connection and relationship formation. First among these is what specialists term value signaling authenticity, the subconscious recognition of whether an individual's behaviors align with their genuine personality and values. Rather than appearing artificially constructed, people demonstrate heightened sensitivity to these authenticity markers, often detecting inconsistencies between verbal expressions and actual behavioral patterns through what cognitive scientists call pattern recognition systems. These systems quickly identify and respond to compatible traits and behaviors during initial interactions, distinguishing between authentic presence and what researchers describe as strategic availability. Another crucial aspect of attraction dynamics involves what psychologists call emotional investment reciprocity, the natural tendency to connect with individuals who demonstrate balanced levels of emotional availability and investment. This phenomenon activates multiple neural pathways associated with reward processing, social bonding, and attachment formation, creating what experts term attraction amplification cycles, situations where perceived emotional balance increases. Motivation to engage through what specialists describe as reciprocal engagement motivation. However, when one party appears either excessively available or completely unattainable, it disrupts this natural reciprocity, creating what researchers describe as attraction inhibition responses. The role of social proof and validation in attraction dynamics cannot be overstated. Human beings naturally look beyond surface-level interactions for cues about whom to pursue or admire, relying on what psychologists term social validation loops. These loops operate through observation of others' reactions and interactions, creating what researchers call attractiveness amplifiers, situations where perceived desirability increases based on external validation. This mechanism explains why group dynamics and social context significantly influence attraction patterns, making certain individuals appear more appealing when observed within particular settings or relationships. Furthermore, the concept of authentic scarcity plays a vital role in attraction dynamics. When individuals demonstrate what experts call natural availability, maintaining appropriate boundaries while showing genuine interest, they trigger what psychologists term attraction motivation in others. This response stems from evolutionary programming that values resources and partners who require effort to obtain, suggesting higher quality or greater value. However, this scarcity must be balanced with accessibility to prevent crossing into unattainability or aloofness, creating what researchers describe as optimal emotional distance. Understanding these foundational aspects of attraction dynamics requires moving beyond simplistic notions of physical appeal or surface-level chemistry. True attraction emerges from a complex web of biological responses, psychological evaluations, and social influences that interact dynamically during each encounter. By recognizing these underlying mechanisms, individuals can approach relationship building with greater awareness and intentionality, focusing on cultivating authentic connections rather than relying solely on superficial tactics or momentary sparks of interest. Mastering strategic absence, the art of purposeful withdrawal. The implementation of strategic absence represents perhaps the most sophisticated approach to triggering intense attraction and admiration, operating through what researchers term intermittent reinforcement patterns adapted specifically to relational contexts. Unlike simple frequency of availability or artificial attempts at intrigue, this method focuses on creating meaningful emotional connections during moments of presence, while maintaining thoughtful distance through deliberate withdrawal and calibrated re-engagement, thereby activating what experts call emotional oscillation in potential admirers. At its neurological core, strategic absence functions through what scientists describe as reward prediction error modulation within human interaction frameworks, the careful manipulation of expectations regarding availability and attention. When executed correctly, this technique creates what specialists term anticipatory arousal, a state where the anticipation of interaction becomes more powerful than the interaction itself. This phenomenon activates multiple neural pathways associated with motivation, reward processing, and emotional memory consolidation, making each moment of presence increasingly valuable and memorable. The key lies in understanding what researchers call presence gradients, the varying degrees of availability and engagement that create optimal conditions for attraction motivation to flourish in relational contexts. Successful execution of strategic absence depends heavily on what experts term contextual calibration, the ability to adjust absence patterns based on individual preferences, relationship stages, and situational factors specific to relational spaces. Different personalities respond optimally to varying degrees of presence and withdrawal, requiring what specialists describe as personalized engagement protocols. For instance, individuals with anxious attachment styles might benefit from shorter periods of thoughtful distance, punctuated by more frequent but brief engagements, while those with avoidant tendencies respond better to longer intervals of absence, followed by intense bursts of connection. This customization prevents what researchers call attachment mismatch, situations where absence patterns inadvertently trigger negative emotional responses rather than fostering healthy attraction behavior. The psychological impact of strategic absence extends beyond simple curiosity to deeper levels of attachment formation through what researchers describe as memory anchoring, specific to relational contexts. During periods of absence, the mind engages in what cognitive scientists call relational elaboration, the process of mentally reconstructing past interactions, anticipating future encounters, and assigning meaning to the developing relationship. Through what specialists term narrative construction, this mental activity strengthens neural connections associated with attachment, making each subsequent interaction more emotionally significant through what experts call compound connection, where each cycle of presence and absence builds upon previous experiences to create increasingly strong emotional bonds. Practical application of strategic absence involves developing what researchers term presence literacy, the ability to read emotional cues, adjust timing, and calibrate intensity based on real-time feedback. This skill set includes recognizing when to intensify presence through detailed emotive interactions, when to withdraw through strategic silence, and how to manage transitions between states smoothly through what experts describe as emotional bookending in relational contexts. Successful practitioners often employ what specialists call interaction framing, structuring interactions to begin and end with particularly meaningful content that creates lasting impressions and maintains emotional momentum through what psychologists term anticipation anchors. However, implementing strategic absence requires strict adherence to ethical considerations and genuine intent. Unlike manipulative tactics that exploit vulnerability, this approach emphasizes authentic connection and mutual benefit within relational spaces. The goal remains fostering healthy attachment patterns rather than creating dependency or anxiety through what researchers call relationship integrity in relational contexts. Practitioners must maintain awareness of their own motivations and ensure that periods of presence genuinely contribute to relationship quality, rather than serving solely as tools for influence through what experts term adaptive authenticity in relational interactions. Long-term success with strategic absence depends on continuous refinement and adaptation to evolving relational landscapes. What works initially may require adjustment as relationships evolve, and individual needs change within relational contexts. Regular assessment of emotional responses, relationship dynamics, and personal growth enables practitioners to modify their approach while maintaining the core principles of meaningful presence and thoughtful withdrawal through what researchers describe as dynamic responsiveness specific to relational relationships. This flexibility aligns with Stoic teachings about adapting to changing circumstances, while maintaining inner integrity and purposeful action, ensuring that strategic absence remains a tool for genuine connection, rather than mere manipulation. In relational spaces. Emotional intelligence, the foundation of authentic connection. The cultivation of advanced emotional intelligence in relational contexts stands as perhaps the most crucial element in creating and sustaining meaningful attraction, dynamics transcending mere tactical approaches to relationship building. This sophisticated capability encompasses what researchers term relational emotional architecture, the intricate system of perception, processing, and response that governs how individuals interpret and interact with emotional information in ways that foster genuine attraction and connection. Unlike basic awareness of emotional responses in relational situations, true emotional intelligence involves multiple layers of cognitive and affective functioning that enable what experts call emotional co-regulation, the mutual influence and regulation of emotional states between individuals through what specialists describe as affective attunement. At the neurological level, emotional intelligence in relational contexts activates what scientists describe as the relational social brain network, involving interconnected regions responsible for empathy, perspective-taking, and emotional processing adapted specifically for intimate exchanges. This activation enables individuals to not only recognize surface-level emotions triggered by relational interactions, but also discern underlying emotional patterns, historical influences, and potential future trajectories within these exchanges. The ability to navigate this complexity requires what specialists term relational emotional granularity, the capacity to distinguish between similar emotional states expressed in relational contexts and respond appropriately to nuanced variations. This skill proves particularly crucial during relational interactions, where accurate emotional reading determines the effectiveness of attraction and connection development through what researchers call emotional mapping. The practical application of emotional intelligence in relational contexts involves what researchers call relational emotional calibration, the continuous adjustment of one's emotional expression and response to match the situation's demands and the other person's needs within relational environments. This calibration occurs through what experts describe as micro-emotional adjustments, subtle changes in body language, vocal tone, and verbal content that signal understanding and create rapport. Successful practitioners develop what specialists term relational emotional resonance maps, mental frameworks that help predict and respond to likely emotional shifts during relational interactions, enabling proactive rather than reactive engagement through what psychologists call emotional forecasting. Advanced emotional intelligence in relational spaces also encompasses what psychologists call meta-relational emotional awareness, the ability to observe and regulate one's own emotional responses while simultaneously processing others' emotional states expressed during relational exchanges. This dual awareness prevents what experts term relational emotional contagion, where uncontrolled absorption of others' emotions leads to decreased effectiveness and potential burnout in relational interactions. Instead, practitioners maintain what researchers describe as relational emotional sovereignty, the ability to engage deeply with others' emotions while preserving personal stability and clarity of purpose through what specialists call adaptive attunement in relational contexts. The development of emotional intelligence in relational contexts requires regular practice in what specialists call relational emotional mindfulness, the deliberate cultivation of present-moment awareness focused specifically on emotional dynamics within relational exchanges. This practice includes recognizing automatic emotional responses to relational situations, tracing their origins, and choosing appropriate expressions that serve the interaction's goals. Techniques such as what experts term relational emotional bracketing, temporarily setting aside one's own emotional reactions to focus on others' needs expressed during relational moments, prove particularly valuable during high-stakes relational interactions where maintaining presence and authenticity is crucial for attraction development through what researchers describe as emotional pacing, Furthermore, emotional intelligence in relational spaces involves what researchers call relational emotional forecasting, the ability to anticipate emotional trajectories and prepare appropriate responses in advance within relational contexts. This skill combines knowledge of emotional patterns with situational awareness to create what experts describe as relational emotional contingency plans, strategies for handling various emotional scenarios that might arise during relational interactions. Successful practitioners develop what specialists term relational emotional scenario libraries, collections of past relational experiences and learned responses that inform current interactions without constraining them to rigid formulas, through what psychologists call dynamic responsiveness in relational environments. The impact of advanced emotional intelligence in relational contexts extends beyond individual interactions to influence broader relationship dynamics and community health within relational spaces. Individuals with heightened relational emotional intelligence often serve as what sociologists call relational emotional anchors, stable reference points that help others navigate complex emotional landscapes and uncertain situations in relational environments. Their consistent presence and genuine engagement create what researchers term relational gravity, the natural pull toward meaningful connection that draws others into orbit around their authentic emotional core through what specialists describe as relational scaffolding, authentic confidence, the magnetic force in relational dynamics. The cultivation of authentic confidence in relational contexts represents perhaps the most compelling attractor in meaningful connections, operating through what psychologists term self-efficacy signaling, the natural transmission of genuine self-belief and competence through consistent behavior and presence in relational settings. Unlike superficial displays of bravado or forced assertiveness in relational spaces, true confidence emerges from what experts call core competency alignment, the harmonious integration of one's abilities, values, and actions that creates an irresistible aura of authenticity and reliability, even in relational contexts, creating what specialists term authentic relational attraction anchors. At its foundation, authentic relational confidence functions through what neuroscientists call mirror neuron activation, the brain's tendency to emulate and validate behaviors observed in others, even when experienced purely through relational interactions. When individuals project genuine self-assurance in relational settings, their brains activate specific neural pathways associated with competence and reliability, creating what experts term confidence contagion. This phenomenon triggers similar neural responses in observers, leading to what researchers describe as reciprocal validation, the subconscious endorsement of the confident individual's worth and desirability through what specialists call value signaling in relational environments. The implementation of authentic relational confidence requires mastering what researchers term behavioral congruence, the seamless alignment between verbal communication patterns, nonverbal signals, and action outcomes within relational spaces. This congruence manifests through what experts describe as competency demonstrations, natural opportunities to showcase abilities and knowledge in relational settings without appearing boastful or insecure. Successful practitioners excel at creating what specialists call confidence corridors, structured environments where their genuine capabilities can shine through organically in relational contexts, allowing others to witness and appreciate their authentic strengths without feeling pressured or manipulated through what psychologists term optimal self-presentation. Authentic relational confidence generates what psychologists call attractiveness amplification, the enhancement of relational appeal through demonstrated competence and reliability in relational exchanges. This amplification operates through what researchers term value signaling, the subconscious transmission of desirable traits and characteristics that trigger attraction responses in others through relational interactions. The most effective relational confidence displays combine what experts call visible competencies, observable demonstrations of skill and knowledge in relational settings, with quiet consistencies, subtle but meaningful behaviors that demonstrate reliability and commitment over time through what specialists describe as compound attractiveness. The impact of authentic relational confidence extends beyond immediate attraction to influence broader social dynamics and professional networks within relational spaces. What researchers term reputation velocity describes how quickly and effectively confident actions propagate through relational systems, creating what experts call trust networks. Interconnected groups of individuals who collectively endorse and validate each other's reliability and competence through what specialists describe as distributed validation. Successful practitioners understand how to leverage this velocity by creating what specialists describe as visibility corridors, strategic pathways for positive behaviors and achievements to travel through relevant relational communities, enhancing overall influence and opportunity through genuine self-assurance rather than artificial posturing in relational environments. Practical application of authentic relational confidence requires developing what experts term self-awareness mapping, the regular examination of personal strengths, weaknesses, and behavioral patterns in relational interactions to ensure alignment with core values and desired outcomes. This process involves creating what researchers call integrity matrices, comprehensive frameworks for evaluating behavior against personal standards, professional ethics, and relationship goals within relational spaces. Successful practitioners implement what experts describe as confidence checks, systematic reviews of recent actions to identify areas where authentic confidence succeeded or required adjustment, ensuring that self-assurance continues to grow and solidify over time. Through what psychologists call adaptive authenticity, social proof and shared experiences, amplifying connection through collective validation. The strategic utilization of social proof and shared experiences in relational contexts represents a powerful mechanism for deepening connections and establishing credibility within relationships. This approach leverages what psychologists term social validation loops, the cyclical reinforcement of trust and admiration through observed interactions and mutual experiences. Unlike direct attempts at influence, which can appear manipulative or self-serving, social proof operates through what experts call indirect endorsement, the demonstration of value and desirability through third-party validation and shared community experiences that naturally amplify attraction signals through what researchers describe as networked validation. At its foundation, social proof functions through what neuroscientists describe as mirror neuron activation, the brain's tendency to emulate and validate behaviors observed in trusted social contexts. When individuals witness positive interactions between you and others, their brains automatically begin processing these observations as evidence of your worth and reliability. This neurological response amplifies what researchers term relational capital, the accumulated value of social connections and reputation that influences how others perceive and respond to you through what specialists call distributed reputation management. The implementation of social proof requires careful orchestration of what specialists term shared experience architecture, the deliberate design of group interactions and activities that highlight compatibility and shared values. This process involves identifying what researchers call common ground vectors, areas of overlapping interest, expertise, or experience that naturally facilitate connection and mutual appreciation. Successful practitioners excel at creating what experts describe as experience scaffolds, structured opportunities for meaningful interaction that allow natural chemistry to emerge while maintaining appropriate boundaries and professionalism, creating what researchers term attraction amplifiers, through what specialists describe as experiential validation. Shared experiences, when properly executed, generate what psychologists call collective memory markers, vivid, emotionally charged moments that become reference points for future interactions and relationship development. These markers function through what researchers term emotional anchoring, the process of linking positive feelings and associations to specific shared events or accomplishments. The most effective shared experiences combine elements of challenge, achievement, and emotional connection, creating what experts call peak relational moments that strengthen bonds and enhance mutual admiration through what specialists describe as compound validation. The power of social proof extends beyond immediate interactions to influence broader social networks and community perceptions. What researchers term reputation ripple effects occur when positive interactions in one context influence perceptions and attitudes in related social circles. This phenomenon operates through what experts describe as network validation, the spread of favorable opinions and endorsements through interconnected social systems. Successful practitioners understand how to leverage these ripples by creating what specialists call visibility corridors, strategic pathways for positive interactions to travel through relevant social networks, enhancing overall desirability and credibility through what researchers term distributed attraction through what specialists describe as social capital accumulation. Building credibility through consistent action, the foundation of lasting attraction. The establishment of credibility through consistent behavior patterns in relational contexts represents one of the most powerful yet understated methods for creating sustainable attraction and admiration in interpersonal relationships. This approach operates through what researchers term behavioral signaling theory, the transmission of reliable information about one's character and capabilities through repeated observable actions in relational spaces that naturally trigger attraction responses. Unlike temporary displays of competence or charm in relational environments, true relational credibility emerges from what experts call pattern recognition validity, the brain's natural tendency to assign greater weight to consistent behavioral patterns than to isolated impressive feats or claims, creating what psychologists describe as relational attraction anchors through what specialists term behavioral coherence. At its core, relational credibility construction functions through what neuroscientists describe as trust neurons, specialized brain circuits that activate when observing predictable, reliable behavior over time in relational interactions. These neural pathways create what researchers term credibility scaffolding, a framework of expectations and assumptions about an individual's reliability and competence based on accumulated evidence of consistent performance in relational spaces. The key lies in understanding what experts call behavioral fidelity, the degree to which one's actions align with stated values and commitments across different relational situations and time periods, generating what specialists describe as authentic relational attraction through what researchers term consistent signaling. The implementation of relational credibility building strategies requires mastering what specialists term integrity sequencing, the deliberate arrangement of actions and decisions to create a coherent narrative of reliability and competence in relational environments. This process involves what researchers call consistency mapping, the identification and execution of behaviors that reinforce desired perceptions while avoiding actions that might create cognitive dissonance or undermine established patterns. Successful practitioners develop what experts describe as credibility protocols, standardized approaches to decision-making and action-taking that ensure alignment with core values and long-term goals in relational spaces, creating what psychologists term behavioral coherence through what specialists call adaptive consistency. Consistent relational behavior patterns generate what psychologists call predictability premiums, the added value assigned to individuals whose actions can be reliably anticipated based on established patterns in relational environments. This premium operates through what researchers term expectation fulfillment cycles, the process whereby meeting or exceeding expectations creates positive feedback loops that enhance credibility and trustworthiness, leading to what experts call sustained relational attraction, through what specialists describe as compound credibility. The impact of consistent relational behavior extends beyond individual relationships to influence broader social dynamics and professional networks in relational spaces. What researchers term reputation velocity describes how quickly and effectively credible actions propagate through relational systems, creating what experts call trust networks, interconnected groups of individuals who collectively endorse and validate each other's reliability and competence. Successful practitioners understand how to leverage this velocity by creating what specialists describe as credibility corridors, strategic pathways for positive behaviors and achievements to travel through relevant relational communities. enhancing overall influence and opportunity through genuine consistency, rather than artificial displays or temporary efforts through what researchers term distributed validation. Conclusion: synthesizing understanding. Through integrated principles, the convergence of psychological insights, strategic relationship techniques, and Stoic philosophy reveals a profound truth about human attraction, true influence, and lasting impact stem not from manipulation or artificial tactics, but from the authentic cultivation of virtues that resonate with our shared humanity, even within relational spaces. This synthesis of ancient wisdom and contemporary understanding creates what philosophers term practical relational wisdom, the ability to apply timeless principles to modern relationship dynamics while maintaining ethical integrity and personal authenticity. The Stoic emphasis on controlling our own actions and responses, combined with psychological insights into human needs and attachment patterns, offers a comprehensive framework for building meaningful connections that honor both individual dignity and mutual growth through what experts call adaptive relational authenticity. Central to this approach is the recognition that all external techniques and strategies must serve a higher purpose: the development of virtuous character and genuine understanding in relational contexts. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control others' perceptions or actions, we retain complete authority over our own intentions and behaviors. This principle aligns perfectly with modern psychological findings that emphasize the importance of authenticity, consistency, and emotional intelligence in relationship building. The most effective relational connections emerge not from attempting to force specific outcomes, but from cultivating personal excellence and responding thoughtfully to others' needs and signals through what researchers describe as dynamic relational responsiveness. The practical application of these principles requires what experts term relational virtue integration, the seamless incorporation of ethical behavior, emotional awareness, and strategic wisdom into daily relational interactions. This integration manifests through what researchers term relational response calibration, the ability to adjust one's relational actions and communications based on both philosophical principles and psychological understanding, creating interactions that are simultaneously authentic and effective. The key lies in developing what specialists describe as relational wisdom protocols, flexible guidelines for navigating complex relational dynamics while maintaining core values, and ethical standards through what psychologists call contextual relational congruence. Modern society's increasing complexity and interconnectedness demand this integrated approach more than ever in relational spaces. As traditional relationship models evolve and new challenges emerge, the ability to combine ancient wisdom with contemporary insights becomes crucial for navigating the nuances of human connection through relational mediums. The Stoic practice of maintaining inner tranquility while engaging fully with the world perfectly complements psychological principles of emotional intelligence and authentic presence, creating what experts term adaptive relational authenticity, the capacity to remain true to oneself while responding effectively to changing circumstances and relationship dynamics through what specialists call holistic relational engagement. The ultimate goal isn't mastery over others' emotions or behaviors in relational spaces, but rather the cultivation of what philosophers call relational virtue, the ability to create and maintain connections that promote mutual growth, understanding, and fulfillment through relational mediums. This virtue manifests through what researchers describe as ethical relational influence, the power to inspire positive change and deeper connection through genuine example and thoughtful action, rather than through manipulation or artificial tactics. The challenge lies in maintaining this balance between strategic awareness and authentic engagement, ensuring that every relational interaction contributes to meaningful relationship development while respecting individual autonomy and dignity, through what experts term relational integrity. As we move forward in an increasingly interconnected world, this synthesis of Stoic wisdom and psychological understanding offers a path toward more meaningful relationships, stronger communities, and greater personal fulfillment. The journey requires ongoing examination, adaptation, and growth, guided by both empirical evidence and lived experience. Like any philosophical pursuit, understanding and applying these principles demands continuous refinement and conscious effort, creating a foundation for relationships that satisfy fundamental human needs while promoting individual and collective flourishing through what researchers describe as integrated relational engagement.